On the other hand, you could be thinking Classic here. This 4 versus 3 on Protoss is expecting to hit, you know, maybe even Hero, because Hero's been picked on this map before. Maybe Classic's expecting to hit a Zerg player, but there aren't really very many Zerg players you'd want to put on King Sejong. So that's, I think, why most people vote for Classic here. He's the more accomplished player, and he's also, just in general, a player who looks like he's going to be playing a PvP. That's what he probably was planning on doing here.
Yeah, that's basically why I went for him. He's just got the better results. Sora has not impressed, really. I mean, he had like a bit of a splash in round 1, but since then, like you said, he hasn't really been playing much or basically just losing. So I don't really have the confidence in him to just come out here and, even if he has a build prepared, I don't think he's just going to be able to flat out defeat a guy like Classic. I feel like the skill gap, the results gap even, is so wide for me. That's why I went for Classic.
It's so sharp of a drop, right, between these two. And I feel like, you know, like I said, my reason is based on the fact that I think Coach Park is one of the best coaches we have in Pro League. When he makes choices like this, they're for such a good reason. But the thing that really pushed me over the edge on this one, actually, is the loss that Classic took against Byung. That's what really pushed me over the edge.
He did look very shaky in that match.
Yeah, just looks like a broken player. Let's go into game number 2, SKT versus Sejong, the match that will determine who's going to the finals.
Down here in the bottom right in the red for SK Telecom, it's Classic.
And up here the top left in the blue for Sejong, it's Sora. A lot of hype surrounding this player after all the players he defeated in WCG qualifiers last year. I feel like there's still a little bit of lasting hype from that, but he hasn't lived up to it, honestly.
Yeah, he really hasn't. I mean, he, like I said, he made that bit of a splash in round 1. He had a few games that were pretty good, but then kind of fell off a bit. And like you said, it's a pretty, not a big risk, but it's pretty surprising to put him out here, especially in place of Bunny, a guy who's been taking out Zergs left and right.
No.
They really must have a lot of confidence in this guy for today.
No, I'm curious to see what build he's going to use. I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on his production tab in particular. He has a slight lead in pro production, looking at that very closely. But not a big deal here, not a huge factor whether or not he'll take victory. But I'm expecting something big here. Maybe a Phoenix build. Sora's quite known for that. Most famous for his win versus Zest on Maze.
Yeah.
In PvP. He's a very good PvP innovator. When he wins PvPs oftentimes in televised matches because he changed the meta there.
Someone's out there on a boat.
Yeah.
And
boat 858, man. I don't know. I don't know the story on that. I've seen ads for that on the subway, but I don't really know.
Yeah.
Makes me want to just go get in a boat right now. It's raining. Maybe if it rains enough, it'll just flood, and we just can ride a boat back to my house, man. It's pretty close by.
That would be sick.
Unless we lost power.
Paddle away. We're like,
as long as we didn't lose power, man, we can just go play my PS3. if the internet's out. If not, we can just play. Take turns playing 1v1s at StarCraft. But yeah, oh, look at this. Very late core here.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure how that happened. It looks like it may have been a rushed core, actually. Yeah, it was a rushed core from Classic. He went core before Pylon. A build I actually really like. It gives you so much flexibility. Yeah, it hurts your economy slightly for a brief period of time, but I really like this because it gives you a faster Stalker if that's what you want. It gives you faster tech if that's what you want. It gives you faster Warp Gate research if that's what you want. It gives you faster Mothership Core if that's what you want. And I feel like all these things in PvP are much more important than getting a probe out a little bit faster.
Yeah. Well, the tech of choice that he went for is actually Stargate here. And then when you go for this kind of rush Stargate build, you are basically able to see it if your opponent scouts. So Sora does see it, and he drops his own Stargate in response.
I feel like this is actually a great choice by Classic. Studying Sora's PvPs and how often he goes Stargate. And because it's him coming out here, which would probably shock him, you know, saying, wow, he's coming out. I wonder why this is. I don't understand. Probably going to be doing an Oracle build or maybe doing a Phoenix build. Thanks for coming down, by the way, guys. Good to see you here. I I think he's just looking at this and saying, you know, it's probably going to be Stargate, so I want to get my own Stargate out. Not only am I going to get that, I'm going to rush it out. If I rush it out, I can totally destroy his Oracle build, and I can get a Phoenix advantage here. He's actually going to try to unpower this, but it's not going to happen here. I mean, he's going to get a Phoenix out, and he's going to have to recall.
That's actually Sora's pylon. I'm not exactly sure why he built that pylon in there. Maybe just to see if it finished.
Oh, okay. I couldn't even tell that on the minimap, actually.
Yeah.
I had, like, no idea. I thought that was... Okay, I was totally confused there.
Pretty interesting.
Okay, so yeah, that was definitely to clarify what sort of unit would come out of the Stargate. So a smart choice. I like that a lot. I mean, yeah, it cost him some money, but now he knows, okay, 100% it's going to be Phoenixes, and I need to keep up my Phoenix production. Also, just to make sure the Stargate doesn't get canceled. There's all sorts of information you can gain from that. And it's actually huge to be able to get that pylon in there, so that's a big win. It's a very lasting, hard-to-kill scout. Much more hardcore than a probe that's going to die in 2 seconds.
Yeah, definitely. And we're seeing actually Sora stop production of Phoenixes after one, whereas Classic is continuing to make one. Okay, Sora does start another one, but he is behind, and he did make that forward pylon that is not scouted by Classic just yet.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what he's going to do with this. There was a hidden probe scout, by the way, for Classic that verified the scout as well, so they both know what each other are doing, minus this forward pylon. Robo goes up here, so Classic wants to transition out first. Sora might actually do a timing attack with 3 gates and Phoenixes. Totally possible here, especially if he identifies what Classic is doing, what he's switching into here.
Yeah. Both players here get 4 Phoenixes, but Sora's continuing to make them, so even though he was a little bit slow on the draw after getting the scout, he does get ahead because Classic did stop for a while to get that Robo down.
And actually, again, Classic restarts as well. Air control really important in this matchup. You can switch out of Phoenixes, but you have to be very prepared to do so. You have to have, you know, some sort of other tech, usually Twilight Council oriented, to be able to defeat the Phoenixes and make sure you can take good engagements against them. You know, Archons are quite nice. Charge Zealots are pretty good too because you just overwhelm the Phoenixes. They can't lift up and kill all of them. Similar to Zerglings, just a little bit tankier. So whoever wins the air battle will be able to harass, do a lot of damage that way. But until that time, the defender will always have an advantage. And there may never be an air battle for a while here. This could actually go quite some time before we have an engagement.
Yeah. We do see the Nexus get up here a bit earlier for Sora, but Classic actually was able to squeak out a lot more probes even so. Like, he's up to 35 over 29 right now. So having that advantage in economy, he was at 30 to 23 for a while there as well. So he's been getting more and more mining.
Yeah, and he's also been spending all his chrono boost on that. That's why part of the reason why Sora has a lead in Phoenix count here. He's spent a ton of money on a fleet beacon as well. I feel like he feels like this is going to be a Phoenix war through and through, but it looks like that's not what Classic's playing. He has now permanently, as to my knowledge, the way it looks, stopped Phoenix production. This observer is most likely spotted. Well, there's nothing he can do to deny it from scouting his fleet beacon. And we'll see if he actually continues to research anion pulse crystals. He doesn't know exactly the Phoenix count for Classic, and you know what? I said he stopped it, but he didn't. He's still making them.
Yeah, these players are stopping and starting again. I mean, Classic, the one who's stopping a little bit more. And Classic's actually going for the Blink and the Forge here. So he's going to be committing more to that ground army. He's definitely delaying his Phoenix production a little bit more than Sora.
You know, I'm not a really big fan of Blink versus Phoenix because you're probably still not going to catch them. And then Blink in general in the late game is not very good in this matchup. So I'm curious about this. I know a lot of pros would disagree, but in my experience of casting a lot of PvP since 2010, you know, like especially the Korean PvPs I've cast in my career, looking at this, I feel like it's very difficult to actually kill, you know, Phoenixes with Blink. Artosis once said, if you kill a Phoenix with Blink, your opponent made a big mistake. The Phoenix player made a big mistake.
You stayed too long or something.
So,
well, the anion pulse crystals are done here. So if Sora is actually able to catch those Classic Phoenixes somewhere out on the map, he's going to have a huge advantage.
There's too many stalkers here for him to actually engage us, but he can do a lift like this, obviously. The rest of the Phoenixes can be so far away. He doesn't really want to do this. Now the Phoenix has been spotted here. Oh, wow. He's actually a bit unlucky. He's not quite going to be able to get those sentries, but he was so close. Did he bait double Nexus Cannon?
Yeah, he did.
And now he didn't find the Phoenixes. No way.
Oh, man.
Here
Big
they come.
hive here by Classic, and now he's going to go the other way trying to escape, but he's going to try to meet up with these Stalkers here, and he's got a lot of them compared to the army of Sora especially.
Yeah, and he's got Blink now. It's going to help him a little bit in the fight. If he can actually link up his Stalkers and the Phoenixes, he might be able to take that fight. It's really hard to say. He can already start picking off some of those Phoenixes. And it's just barely too many Stalkers for Sora to stick around.
Yeah.
Really nice maneuver here by Classic.
Sora has gone into Immortal production here, so as long as he does keep that army together, I feel like he will be okay against the Blink. He's just got to make sure he doesn't lose anything. Seems like Classic definitely wants to go for the attack here. His +1 is finished. He's even going for +2 as well, so he's going heavy on the upgrades.
All he needs really here is a few more mortals and a tight wall. He's got the wall set up. And if he blinks in here on top of the Immortals, he's going to have to micro around the Phoenixes. A lot of these units will be lifted. He's got the better Phoenix count, obviously. Trying to make these Colossi come out is pretty greedy. Not sure that's going to work.
Yeah.
He's really trying, though. He's got range even on the way. Don't forget, Classic, all of his units have +1. And I think that's the real possible deciding factor here. Good force fields right now. He's just trying to take as many Phoenix shots on Classic's Phoenixes as he can so they can't lift those Immortals. Gateways get canceled. A nice force field trap here. Pick up the Immortal. That's huge. This is still so many Blink Stalkers right now. You know, when you want to use Blink Stalkers to attack against Phoenixes, you know what I said earlier may actually not really apply.
Yeah, and he gets both of the Immortals, which are going to be huge in killing that defense of Sora. And now he's just got a gigantic amount of Stalkers here.
Yeah, just way too many, an overwhelming amount. He can just blink on top of that Colossus. He ignores it. Phoenix is lifting some of these Stalkers, doesn't matter. He baited both the overcharges earlier, which really hurts him in the defense. And honestly, it looks like Classic does much more well-versed in how to deal with Phoenixes. Rather than playing the air battle, he switches it. GG.
Sora looks a bit frustrated, and Classic takes a win. That's got to be good for his confidence and the confidence of SKT as well. They're up now 2-0 in pretty fast fashion. These are two pretty fast games here. Now high-fiving all his teammates. A big cheer comes out for him, for the crowd.
Giving a bow. Gotta say, man, I feel like Sora played that game super blind. Minus the pylon at the start. He just kept making Phoenixes. He got an Anion Pulse Crystal upgrade. That didn't really do too much for him. He wasn't able to track down the Phoenixes of Classic, despite the fact that he had multiple opportunities to do so. He just totally botched that. Then used 2 overcharges against his opponent's Phoenixes rather than sending his Phoenixes home, which would have crushed the Phoenix army. And that meant the next attack that came with a massive amount of Blink Stalkers was too much.
He was just scared in that moment that the giant amount of, it wasn't giant, it was like 7 Phoenixes out of Classic. We're going to pick up all the sentries and maybe even the Stalkers. So he used the 2 because he wanted to protect that really small army at the time, especially because there was an Immortal coming out as well, and maybe he picked that up. So it like, he baited out those 2 overcharges, like you said, and that follow-up with the Blink. Sora was just like totally blind to that. He didn't even know that the Blink was on the way, and once it hit, he was just not prepared. I feel like he needed more Immortals. He could not go into Colossi.
He was like trying to get Colossi out.
Yeah,
I mean,
it just
the Colossus build time and the Immortal build time's not massively different, so he would have had 1 more Immortal out. Could have been a lot more helpful. It looked like the missing Nexus Cannon really hurt. And just the fact that he wasn't able to eliminate his opponent's Phoenixes. You know, in that moment where he protected his Stalkers and his sentries, he could have just pulled them one Nexus or the other in one direction or the other. It probably would have been okay, but I think he panicked a little bit. But hey, props to Classic. A beautiful transition out of Phoenixes when his opponent clearly wanted to force that Phoenix versus Phoenix. Classic knew just how to avoid it and to go right into a big Blink Stalker attack. Not trying to use Blink Stalkers in defense, not